There's chairs if you guys don't want to stand. Come in and make yourselves at home, make a new friend. There's a chair here. I see a chair there. There's some chairs over here. Yeah, there's a chair here, there, everywhere. There's a chair, there's a chair. You get a chair, you get a chair. We all get chairs. All right, let's go ahead and.
That's what we're at.
Let's see, I've got 10:30, so let's get cracking. Excuse me. I'm a little hoarse. I yelled really loudly yesterday at the plenary when Rat's home. And if you were sitting in front of me and I blew out your eardrums, I'm really sorry. But my friend Brenda, in her town, she got the Gamza Award, and that's pretty exciting.
Were you wearing the maroon shirt?
I was wearing a black shirt.
Oh, okay, so no.
But it was the same style. Yeah. But I'm a bigger guy, and they could only keep my size when we came in black. So my name is Michael Bulloch. I'm the executive director for Gallup Main Street Arts and Cultural District. I've been involved with Main Street since 1997. In my my hometown, Farmington, New Mexico. I was on their board of directors for their Main Street program for several years. Then I was an interim executive director for them for a year. Then I sort of stepped off and just kind of was a volunteer, and then became the Main Street director again in 2015, and then in 2020 I moved over to Gallup, and I've been doing some fun stuff there. So let's see, is that the right one? Yeah. So in 2016, that was my first Main Street Now conference. And if you were there, you might remember that Peter, I'm going to butcher his name, Kigiyama, was the keynote speaker for the opening plenary. And he has a book called Love Where You Live. And in it, he talks about how small solutions can have a big impact. And so this quote, I'm going to read it because I like it so much, but it's kind of there's a bit in the middle that I didn't include, but you buy the book and it's awesome. You won't regret it. There's power in small things, the silly and dismissible idea that makes people smile. There's game-changing power in these small things. Small aspirations become big, and a few iterations down the road, silly projects and their instigators may create a transformative project for the city. And that was kind of our outlook on things in Gallup. Sometimes, we just got finished with a big giant streetscape project, an infrastructure thing that cost millions of dollars, and we're working on an alley improvement project that costs millions of dollars. But we can also do these small little projects that kind of support those bigger projects. So I'm going to give you a little information about Gallup. We're located near the border between New Mexico and Arizona. We neighbor the Navajo or Diné Reservation and the Zuni Pueblo. They're our two closest neighbors. Our population is approximately 20,000, and 50% are Native American. We are a New Mexico State Certified Arts and Cultural District, and we're named for David Gallup, who was the paymaster for the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad, later becoming the BNSF Railroad. We were first settled in 1880 as a stagecoach stop, and then in 1881 it became the headquarters for the Southern Transcontinental Railroad. And workers would say, "Hey, we're going to Gallup, get paid." And that's how we got the name. It just sort of stuck. And we're also known as the gateway to Native America, and we're responsible for more than 70% of the nation's Native American jewelry manufacturing. But we have an image problem, and you may share this image problem. We have a lot of issues that make our historic district look worn down and dirty. People think downtown Gallup is dirty and unsafe. when in actuality it's not really that bad. We have small areas of damaged infrastructure that, like a lot of times, they go unnoticed. But you see them, but you don't see them. But it gives you that sense of, God, this place sucks. When in actuality, it does not. If you go to your hometown, you know that your place is awesome. But every now and then you're like, ugh. That's kind of what this stuff did to us. The cool thing is we're an officially designated New Mexico State Arts and Cultural District, and we're partnered with this other awesome organization called Gallup Arts. They're our local arts council, and I have this amazing partner in the executive director there named Rose Eason, and she's always coming up with good ideas. We can play off each other, so if you have an arts organization in your town, partner up. Also, New Mexico has a great state arts program called New Mexico Arts, and a couple of years ago, they challenged arts groups in the state to install several small public art projects. They didn't care what they were. They were just like, hey, we're going to give you $500 as seed money. Come up with some ideas to do some public art. So Rose approached me, and we, to help with what we eventually called the Tiny Art Project. And it's kind of based on the concept of tactical urbanism. But we were like, hey, let's do this legally. Let's not get in trouble with the city. But we also looked at it as kind of inspired by the Japanese technique of kintsugi, which is fixing cracks in pottery with gold and resin. And the goal of the Tiny Art Project is to beautify those blemishes in the built environment through a very small scale and very whimsical public art installation. So I promise I'm going to get you some cool pictures so you'll see what I'm talking about. Most of this, text is, it is. It's explanation. What do they call that in the movies?
Context?
Yeah, context. Our first step was to kind of, because you see these things, but they don't always register with you. So walk your district like a first-time visitor. Put on those like I'm here for the first time goggles, and look at all the nooks and crannies. Walk down alleys, down side streets that maybe you don't normally walk down. Check out all the public spaces. If you have like a little, if you have a park in your downtown, or you have we have a plaza in front of our courthouse. Look for things like cracks and broken tiles, missing tiles, broken concrete, ugly pipes. You'd be surprised where these things are. And so we discovered that most of our issues, not all, but most of our issues, were on public property. So we proposed the project to our mayor and council. I don't think I had that first, I did include a slide deck to mayor and council, but I think it's after we got some projects. I'm going to try and upload one of our proposals where we describe the project to them to the app as well. It just occurred to me that I hadn't done that. So we went to mayor and council and said, hey, we found all these things, and we showed them, 30 things, and then we showed them, and that wasn't even all of the things we found, and then we said, we've picked these 6 as kind of a test bed for this idea. And we feel like we can do this for $3,500. We have $500, we need to raise $3,000. And we get all sorts of ideas of where we were going to get. BNSF offers grants for stuff like this, several other organizations. But one of our council members reached out to us and said, hey, I really like this idea. I'm going to put $1,500 of my discretionary funding into this project. And we thought, gee, if she's going to do it, maybe we could talk to the mayor. He never spends his discretionary money. He's always like, So I called up the mayor. I was like, hey, and being a small town, you know, the mayor is downtown all the time. I see him. His business is across the street, you know. So I know in a bigger city it's a little more difficult. But I called up the mayor and I said, Mr. Mayor, you know, we're looking at doing this project, and we need $1,500 more. Would you consider supporting that with some of your discretionary funding? And he said, yeah, I can do that. I mean, he didn't even bat an eye, which at the time I thought maybe he didn't really like me. He was like, no, I like that idea. It's great. So we had our $3,500. Phase 2, we were doing 2 phases. So we started a new phase, which is currently being installed right now. And I have some photos of both. Phase 2 was funded by a $3,500 grant from the New Mexico Resiliency Alliance, which is a group that supports New Mexico Main Street in their fundraising efforts. And they kind of work with Main Street organizations and other organizations within New Mexico. So look for those kinds of, you know, supporting organizations when looking to fund these things. And here's some examples of our damage. This is City Hall. This is a light well. This is the alley. This is 2nd Street right here. Whoops. Got nervous and hit the screen. This has been like this for years, clearly. That's my office. This is my office. My office. This is brand new. We built this in 2021, and it's already broken. I don't know how a trailer hit it somehow, and it's broken. You know, new concrete. Wasn't cured all the way. Who knows? But it's been broken since literally 2021. Front of City Hall. Literally the front face of City Hall. This is where they cut a parking meter off in the 70s and never did anything with it. Here we have our courthouse plaza. And Gallup was known for a couple of things. There was a big brick manufacturing facility there. And they made what they call Gallup bricks. And those are really popular to use as like details if you have a collection. I happen to have 6 of them in my house, just because. Not as part of my house construction, but I collect bricks. It's really weird, I know. But they're stamped with Gallup, and so they used them as a detail. There's one that's missing. Who knows how long that one is?
Can you go back to, yes.
That one?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, these are just, here's the title. My office is in a historic theater, and so it's one of the little storefronts. You have a storefront, and an entrance to the theater. The whole building is missing tiles like that. Let's see, here we've got that. Yeah, I'm talking about that. Here we've got, this is outside the children's library. This is across the street from that damage. It's nice. It's a rain collection barrel, although it's missing a fin there to hold water. And I discovered that this is actually connected to nothing. This is what it looked like. I took a picture of it. And then I was talking to the artist who eventually kind of was chosen, their idea was chosen. And I said, hey, can you figure out how to cover up like those cinder blocks or something? And he said, well, I don't know how, I was like, I don't know, rocks, something. And he goes, do you have rocks? And I was like, I'd probably find them.
I have bricks.
Well, I know. Yeah. Well, what I did end up with is broken concrete. One of my board members was like, hey, my neighbor has all this broken concrete she's trying to get rid of. Probably. It was actually from her sidewalk. The plumbers ripped it up and then didn't haul it off. But that was, so I stacked that up and I said, do whatever you want with it. We stacked it there. We've got missing finials. This is a public parking lot with a wrought iron fence around it. Next door to the Northwest New Mexico Council of Governments office. It's a city-owned lot. That office is next door to City Hall, so it's right there. We only took a picture of one of the missing finials. There's like 30 or 40 around this whole thing. That's an old signpost. So, let's see, how am I doing on time? Okay, 15 minutes. I should be able to get through this and have some time for questions. So we're fortunate to have a huge wealth of talent in Gallup. So find those artists. Gallup Arts put out a call to artists inviting them to create something that would fix the problem. We told them it might be temporary. They were going to get paid, but it might be temporary, it might be permanent. We didn't know, they didn't know, the city didn't know. So Rose and I developed guidelines, which are in the attachments, for things we felt were appropriate for public art. We wanted it to be family friendly, we wanted it to kind of fit in with the culture of Gallup. We wanted to make sure that there was no gang-related stuff. And then we formed a selection committee to review the proposals. I think there were like 5 people on that committee. Well, ended up being 4 because I was sick the day I was one of them. And then Rose and I presented the selections to mayor and council for final approval. And we created an artist contract and arranged for payment after completion. Actually, we split it into a $250 initial payment and then $250 after they were finished. And that is also attached. So here's some examples of sketches submitted. You can see they go from everything from pretty complex, even this artist created a sample sculpture of her sleeping cat idea. That's a new thing, but this artist, pretty simple concept. She was like, I'm going to make a Lego Roadrunner, and I'm going to embed it in resin in this hole in the concrete, and then I'm going to do some resin with, I don't remember how the flower thing works, but, and then, that's a mosaic. And this guy, he's a welding teacher at the UNM Gallup. So we have a local campus for the University of New Mexico in Gallup. And he's a welding instructor, and he proposed this sculpture of a Navajo girl holding her sheep. Here are some of those finished projects. This is what he ended up doing. This is 6 inches tall. It's a little taller than that, I think maybe 10 inches tall. He used it as an instruction in his welding class, so he taught people how to do this kind of stuff. There's the little finial replacement. It was a little seated girl. What's funny about that one, it was actually stolen. And we contacted the artist, we were like, hey, we have terrible. She goes, oh, because her process is she sculpts it in ceramics, fires it, creates a mold, molds it out of concrete. She's like, I can make another one. So that new one is the one, the lighter one is the newer one. Here's what one artist did with the parking meter posts. She resin embedded pressed native flowers. The city was really kind. They went out there and ground it down so it was smooth. That's why this looks like that. But then she resin embedded pressed flowers. You walk along, you might not notice it. But it's this cool thing when you do notice it, you're like, oh. Here's what the artist did with the rain barrel. Let's see. One more sample, group of samples. Broken bottom glass mosaic. Now, the theater manager and his boss aren't too keen on it, but I personally think it's super dope. This is my favorite one. It's just this random little neck of a bottle underneath the windowsill. It's right there. But it spans it's in front of my office, and it's in front of the little gallery that's on the other side. So it spans the whole building. And they know that it's temporary if they decide to fix this the right way. But it's been like this for, 30, 40 years. Who knows? And then I included this last one, metal band. I have no idea who did that. They attached, somebody maybe bought that at Hobby Lobby. I don't know where they got it. Maybe they made it. But they attached it behind a little sculpture of the shepherdess girl. And I just thought it was hilarious. And we host the 11 Amp Gallup Music Series. And it's just right down the street from that. So we were like, this is awesome. And heavy metal happens to be a popular genre in Gallup. So that's my presentation. I got about 10 minutes for questions. Here's my contact information. Here you can see actually a nice photo of our new streetscape thing that we did. Also I have cards up here. Oh, I don't have a lot left, but any questions? Yes.
So, has your organization worked with the highway department or the railroads?
We haven't yet. We're talking with them about it, but we haven't yet. Oh, and one thing I should say is we presented this, we talked about this at a local executive directors group, and somebody had invited kind of the technology guy from Northern Navajo University, and they have all this really cool equipment. And he said, hey, because I talked about wanting to do QR codes or something with the title, and then they could take it to the artist. Because we have a map that you can find on Google, and it's fine, but it's not great. But I'm working on doing videos where the artists talk about what they did. And so he's like, hey, if you buy the metal, we will etch those QR codes in the metal for free.
Oh, that's
So that was, I forgot to put that in my presentation, but he's like gung-ho. He's like, all you have to do is buy the metal, we'll cut the pieces, and you can mount them, wherever. It'll be weatherproof, that kind of stuff. So look for those little partnerships. It happened because I happened to go to this director's meeting of Gallup, executive director. What did I answer your question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Any other? Yes.
Have you had any public kickback or
we have arts crawls once a month in the summer, starting in April, and for the first phase we kicked that off with the scavenger hunt, and it was super popular. People were like, this is so cool. And this is just a small example of all the ones we did.
Did you hunt digital?
No, it was actually a piece of paper that we handed out from Gallup Arts has a gallery sort of across the street from my office, and we did do it. We promoted it via Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff, but we handed out a sheet. Yes.
You mentioned the One Piece being stolen. Do you have any other issues with vandalism or anything like that?
No, we haven't. There was somebody breaking. Yes.
So with your city, with the public, did you have to do any type of agreement with your city council, like a contract or anything? And you have to put a timeline on it?
No, we didn't have to do that. They didn't ask us to do that. So yeah, that's a.
If you had a new city council, you think that it would just continue to be fine?
I think so. Gallup is so involved in the arts that we have murals, we have, public sculptures, we have all sorts of stuff, and it's kind of a popular thing. So I think it would be. Yes.
We were talking about getting doing it the legal way rather than But so, did you
Even
have
though that last one was.
Yeah, did you have to get any kind of insurance? How hard was the pushback from the city? Did they want to be in on the approval of each project?
They wanted to be in on the approval of the projects. So we presented them to them. In fact, this second iteration, I presented those pipes. An artist proposed doing a snake that wound through, which sounded cool, but I had completely forgot that in the Navajo culture, snakes are kind of bad. And so they said, we can't do that. And I said, well, and I also told the artist, we're accepting you conditionally, but you may have to make changes. So then that artist made changes, and he's doing a ring-tailed fox, which is not bad. Let's see, you were.
So everywhere that you had those mini installations, was it all public property, or were any of the buildings privately owned?
So,
did you get permission from the building owners?
Our first version was all public because
Okay.
it was just easier that way. The second one, that sleeping cat, is actually being installed on private property. What's funny is that person is my board president, so she's super gung-ho about it.
Okay.
But I talked to other private property owners, and they were like, yeah, that sounds cool if you come up with a thing. So it's just talking to the property owners, because we have a ton on private property as well.
So initially it was just city council, hey, can we do this on public property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, then we felt it was easier that way. Let's see, I've got somebody back in the back there.
Yeah, how much did you pay the artist? Did you say
We paid them $500. Yeah. Let's see, you.
Just out of curiosity, they were talking about, there's ones we got on there that were repair that the city should have done, like the curb, and
Yeah.
why would they be so concerned with approving your project to make it better? rather
When
than
they hadn't done
fixing
that?
their damn-
Yeah.
That is a good question. That is a good question. I don't have the answer. We showed that to them and they were like, that's broken already? I was like, walk past it every day.
I mean, the whole, like, why didn't they just fix their public nuisance if they, I mean.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think it might be budgetary concerns, who knows?
So they're giving I mean.
Well, they didn't, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. They gave us $1,500 each and I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's weird. I agree with you. Let's see, I got some back here. Let's go.
So I live in a town in Montana that is bordered by some reservations.
Mhm.
We want to incorporate their culture. We want to make sure that we are not being fishy and disrespectful. How do we navigate that?
Most of the artists who proposed projects were Native American. And if they weren't Native American, we didn't accept their proposal if it was based on Native cultural things. So, in fact, did I? Oh, I guess I did. Wait, did I swap it out? Oh, I guess I didn't. I did. Okay, I thought I had included one in another one. I guess I did it on my laptop, but I didn't stick it on the thumb drive. I'm sorry. I was thinking I had another photo of something. But Casey Tong, who did he's Navajo. He also did a small. We have a hole. Again, it's so weird. We had this hole in a post near the city council or city hall. There's a bench there, so people sit there and they see this hole. And he ended up painting a native man riding an Indian motorcycle coming out of that. He had this whole description, but we accepted it because he's native. The guy who did the snake is not native, so he wanted to just do some nature kind of thing. You know, he wasn't doing a native theme thing. It was just about nature and the outdoors, and that's why we accepted it. But let's see, I had the answer.
So was $500 what you paid them for the whole thing, for their time and for producing it and manufacturing and installing it?
Yep.
What's your average wage in your city?
I don't know. To be honest, I can't remember. It's off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember. It's not super high, but mostly it was an incentive to just want to do something. It wasn't really because we were like, look, this could be a temporary project. The sculpture, which that would clearly sell for way more than what we paid him. He used scraps from his class, and he used it as a teaching opportunity in his class, so he was okay. When he proposed it, we were like, hey, we can only pay you $500. Is this enough for that? And he said, well, I'm going to use it as a teaching opportunity in my class. So that's how he justified it for himself. The other artists, like the Mosaic, she went around and collected broken bottles. Like she walk the street, walk the highway and picked up broken bottles. So we had a lot of poverty in Gallup, but it was when we talked about the $500 budget, we told them that these are probably temporary pieces. This is what we can afford, and people were fine with that. Now we also pay well over that for a mural. If somebody does this big mural, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. So, but we do have a lot of poverty, and we do have. I'm trying to remember what's minimum wage, Jesse, in New Mexico. Is it 11?
I think so, yeah.
Dollars an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so is this an ongoing project, and do you have to keep going before the city council for approval?
Yes, and yes, it is an ongoing project, and as long as it's on city property, we do. I did run the city cat, by them even though it's on private property, just so they know. Because it is on the public part of the building, but it's it's private property. Yeah. Yes.
So you said on here that you went through 2 phases. Is that where you are currently? Or
We are currently in the second phase. We're working, we have artists installing stuff. I had some, emailing me yesterday saying, hey, I've finished this section, and so I told them where to go pick up their check. And one last question, and then,
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
consider working with K-12 schools to develop any art project? Do you think that would
we did think about that, but for this version, we were like, well, let's, I don't know. What part of it was that we wanted to be able to kind of give money back to some artists. And while probably with K-12 students, we would have given money to their school, we did send applications to the schools, because the brick, that missing brick, was a student piece. She was in high school, but she got $500 for doing the project herself. And if it had been a group of kids, we probably would have just given it to the school. But she was actually a student. I think she was in 11th grade. She did this cool mosaic mushroom glass thing, and I didn't have a photo of it for some reason. But yeah, hopefully, if you guys, I got a couple more cards. Feel free to literally.